drive 9 over the limit, and that's it.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. And traffic is actually kind of crazy on the highways near you. No.
I mean, it's not bad here. I mean, maybe
Okay.
on 95, but I don't really mess with 95. And it
Okay.
depends. I mean, as a tattoo artist, you're not typically hitting rush hour either because we tattoo at different times than most people are rushing around. But once I
Yeah.
started dropping my kid off at school, I definitely started hitting rush hour in the morning, which is annoying.
Is that one of your your selling points? Is that one of the things that you consider as a benefit of the job of tattooing, that you don't have to drive in rush hour?
Dude, I love it, man. I mean, back when I was single, or even when my girl and I didn't have a kid, I mean, anytime I would go out and it would be crowded, I'd be like, "The hell's going on?" And I'd be like, "Oh shit, it's Saturday." I'm like,
Yeah,
because
normal stuff.
dude, I never had to make reservations. I would just go everywhere, and it was never busy, and I loved it. And then as soon as I, had my kid, my schedule got a little more consistent with everyone else's because he's off on the weekends and stuff like that. So, like when we're doing kid stuff on the weekends, it's like tons of kids and tons of parents, and I'm always strategize not to be there when there's lots of people.
Is
Excuse
that
me.
self-isolating, my therapist would tell me. But
Yeah, yeah. On that note, let's talk about mental health, man. What the fuck?
we did consider that as a topic we should go over.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think we
still
should,
down?
man. Always. Yeah, I mean, dude, like I think I think everybody deals with it in some capacity. Some people deal with it, don't even realize they're dealing with it. So I don't think it should be a taboo topic per se.
Well,
Um,
how does the great, I know how I deal with it poorly. How does the great Jesse Smith own as this man, maestro of color palette, backgrounds and dynamic designs that draw you in and that flow with the body and such. And I don't know, you're known as that. I'm going to stop the intro, I guess, at that level and just say, how the fuck do you have any depression, dude? Do you know who you are? You're Jesse fucking Smith.
well, that's an awesome intro, man, and I appreciate that. And then, as you know, the depression isn't something that you can really control. I personally, and I think I told you this before. I think there's different reasons for people to be depressed. Obviously, things that are happening, with people around them and stuff like that. But I personally think it's more of a physiological situation. Not saying that it's only a physiological situation, but I do think that there's a lot of physiological elements that play a role in it. For example, some people have a genetic predisposition to have difficulty getting rid of mold toxins or just, detoxifying in general. So there's this gene snip called the MTHFR gene snip, and it's actually, it looks like it spells motherfucker, but like 40% of the population has it. And if you have it, you have a lot more difficulty, um, detoxing. And
from
so,
from
uh,
molds,
from
detoxing from
stuff,
molds. Okay.
stuff in general. So like let's just say your body's job is to warn you when there's danger. And so, I think a lot of the anxiety that we have, back in the days it would have been from seeing a tiger or a dinosaur or something like that. Whereas now our bodies are, you know, experiencing a lot of negative stuff, whether it's inhaling mold or eating, food and dyes and stuff like that. And so if your body is like, hey, this shit ain't good for you, your body's going to be charged. It's going to try to warn you that something's going on. Um, and anxiety,
Spidey
as you know,
sense. A Spidey
yeah,
sense would kick in.
yeah. I don't know if you know much. Do you know much about the limbic system? The parasympathetic system and stuff like that.
Very little. But
So
so
the
by Dunning-Kruger's example, I'm a master of it. So don't tell me more before I'm learning how ignorant I am. No, limbic
well,
system. It's not people doing a limbo. It's
no,
not. Seems like it should be something with parallel bars. I see Simone Biles jump.
it's that part of your it's the part of your symptom part of your system that kind of like uh kind of warns you when things are going on and you can't really control it, right? So what I tell people is like, when you have trauma or per se, like let's say were you saw a tiger, right? The next time and you saw a tiger just kind of rip apart one of your friends, then next time you see a tiger, you're going to be like, you're going to be super scared that second time. Your system is there to protect you and saying that's a danger. I got to get out of there, right? And
Yeah.
so I think the same thing happens with being exposed to things. So, for example, let's say that you got exposed to mold when you were 4 years old in an environment. And let's just even say that you healed from that over the years. The next time you get into a building that has a substantial amount of mold, your limbic system says, hey, there's something going on here that I remember from back in the days. You should be on alert. And so that creates anxiety in you. And so that's a
Well,
physiological kind of
we just
uh,
we just canceled last week. We were supposed to do this podcast, and you had to stop for mold. Right? Am I wrong? So that I'm guessing that's what brings it. I mean, you've gone over it now a couple of times. Have you recently then been dealing with depression, or you believe it to be a physiological link to your exposure to mold? Maybe.
No, so I haven't really been dealing with depression. The first time I dealt with
Well,
depression, well, I mean,
that throws your theory completely out the window. Then.
well, listen, I'm about to tie it all together.
Okay.
So, I went through depression back in 2004, right? And it because of that situation, at the time I was super confused and I was like, what the hell is going on? I mean, I have a fine life, everything's good. In 2004, it was pre me, being, I guess, famous in the tattoo industry. I hadn't had any magazine articles, but I was gaining a little bit of traction on my website or whatever. But many people weren't using it back then. But anyways, so I went through it over the course of like 3 years, and uh, relatively recent over the past like 10 years, I started experiencing these weird symptoms, right? And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like my brain's clipping out. I'm having some anxiety and, just other symptoms, some skin issues and stuff like that. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And so I start, kind of doing a bunch of research and realizing that, your environment, your building that you're in can create a lot of issues for you. So I've just been studying that all the time. And then once realized that, I thought back to that time that I was depressed and I was in this apartment that was, it was owned by a slumlord and he just never took care of anything. So who knows what I was inhaling from that environment? We had the gas stove, so I could have been inhaling gas. It could have been, tons of mold in there and all that stuff. So I've just started to notice how my body reacts when I'm in environments that maybe aren't totally clean, or if I don't eat, if I start eating certain things, I have issues. So,
Red dyes.
anyways,
What are you eating?
so I had my biggest allergen that I could pinpoint was this thing called sodium benzoate. So it's actually a preservative that is in like Sprite and salad dressings and a lot of like
All kinds
liquid
of stuff.
to keep
Everything.
things, yeah, a lot of sauces and stuff like that. But that was one that I could pinpoint. But once I started pinpointing that, then I started being like, okay, well, what else do I have issues with? So I've been through a slew of like different diets and just like elimination diets, like eliminating certain things and stuff like that to kind of like learn. But in that journey, I started, learning that, your environment can actually, because you're like so burdened by your environment, it can actually make it so you're triggered by foods and drinks and stuff like that. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Are you allergic to sodium benzoate because you just are? Or is your body burdened by, inhaling mold or gas or something along those lines? And then you have trouble, um, you know, being able to tolerate, sodium benzoate, stuff like that, because your body's so overburdened. And this all ties back to the limbic system, because if your body your body's like in constant anxiety because it's in an environment that's creating this danger response, then you're starting to be triggered by everything. And I definitely noticed all these things prior to actually doing any research on it. Was that my body is very easily triggered, and I noticed that it comes on in kind of like waves. There'll be certain times where I'm just like triggered by everything, and then another time I can eat the same thing and be totally fine. And of course, kind of revolves around stress, because of course stress heightens everything and increases your load of, we'll call it, your toxic load per se. But yeah, anyways, the other thing I wanted to tie back to is the whole trauma thing. And as far as I know, I've never experienced any significant trauma. But, back to the whole tiger situation, if you or anyone has experienced like some trauma back in the past, let's just say that your dad beat you or something like that, then, and let's just say he just happened to beat you in a certain situation, and he has a certain tone to his voice and stuff like that. Anytime you're exposed to someone who has that type of tone, or you see, well, let's just say there was red paint on the wall. Anytime you walk into a building where there's red paint on the wall, your limbic system starts getting, it's like, hey, I've been here before, something crazy is happening. And so then you start getting this anxiety. And of course, anxiety and depression are kind of hand in hand. So you take that, the trauma response from something that happened in the past, you tie that in with your food, you tie that in with your environment, you throw some stress on top of that, and you're just getting it from every angle. And then just, pop in something negative that happens in your life at that particular point in time. You're not making enough money or whatever. And all of a sudden you're a mess.
Then now, that there's a lot of interest there, because typically think of depression, and there's a few things that come to mind. It's going to be treatments, hours of either therapy, therapy, medication, or therapy and medication. That's our typical thoughts. Not necessarily, you would say, check your environment. And from there too, I have heard others that suggest sleep as being a big factor. And of course, that's going to be into it too. Yeah, if you're getting bad sleep and you're depressed, try to get some good sleep. Like, go to bed at normal hours, wake up at normal times. Easier said than done sometimes, but even medicated.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the majority of the issues that people have revolve around their diet, stress, sleep, and then of course your environment.
Yeah, yeah, I do know. That's why I tend to live out here on the lake in the summertime instead of my house in the hood in Flint in the summertime.
Right.
And I live there in the winter when I'm traveling, because this isn't available. But
Because you're a
yeah,
baller,
exactly.
man.
Yeah,
You're on Ink Master 2 seasons in a row. So you got all that
baller on a
loot to buy
budget.
2 houses.
Well, yeah. Well, one's a trail, and it attaches to my car if need be. So
Perfect.
yeah, I'm not mad about it. But yeah, I keep it in that context too. It makes me feel pretty awesome though, having this lake. I love it.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
that is my biggest de-stressor. If I get out there on my paddleboard or whatever, a lot of that goes away. They say an hour walk in I don't know the percentage, but an hour walk in nature can decrease your ability to be triggered mentally, um,
Yeah.
from several things.
Well, I'm sure have you heard of grounding at all?
Through, I mean,
Aside from what your dad did to you when you were growing up?
well, yeah, there's that. No, I wasn't grounded. We were beaten. So every time I step into church, I feel a little fun. No,
Oh,
every time I
geez.
start hearing bits of the Bible, like, it's amazing. Like, my dad would use the Bible to justify, spanking us, but he would spank hard, man. And like, I don't know they needed to do that. And also, I don't know
Right.
that you needed to do it, but because it was in the Bible, we would go with Bible verses, and it didn't make me love the Bible more. I don't know that there
Right.
isn't, you know, a connection there. Like maybe leave the Bible out of it until afterwards, you know. Come in with the soft words of the Lord after the, but I don't even know when to do it really. I don't know that you should. And my father was he was raised more violent than me, you know. So
Wow.
to him, the beatings were not just par for the course. It was like, well, they're being done in the context of the word of the Lord. How could they be?
Right.
So, but
Yeah,
to
well
a kid,
there's there's that enhanced limbic system, you know, like you know, you obviously would have a pretty
yeah,
uh sensitive limbic system based off of that.
as you say that, that made me consider that, because like my relation with religion has been strained, of course, ever since. And I never really put the two of those things together. I just looked at religion as kind of a bad practice, or, you know, overall net bad on society in many cases. And would focus on those things. I know that religion does good immensely in many cases. However, I also always looked at them as overall bad. I think that would be more likely my design narrative because of my own experience. That would follow, you know, narrative bias that I would want to see. So, damn it, now it
Yeah.
makes me question it.
I mean, but you know, the fact of the matter is that that makes total sense. I mean, you are you know, if the person, you know, who was beating you was all about religion, then that's gonna push you against it, right? And that's gonna trigger you just to even be involved in it in any capacity. I mean, I feel like the same thing happens with the whole Trump situation. Is like feel like a lot of the people who don't like him, not that I like him, I don't. I think he's very divisive this way as far as the way he communicates. But I feel like a lot of the people that have the biggest issues with him are ones who I feel like that probably Trump probably reminds them of someone who did bad things to them throughout their life because he, you know, the way he talks and the whole like mega alphaness to him and stuff like that. I think that that's probably where he turns off a
Yeah,
lot of his people, or a lot of the people, I should say.
I get that. Uh, kind of love and hate the guy. So, and we're
Yeah,
in this period where you can't have an opinion of I don't know.
I
So
mean you
you can't
can.
have
You
an
just have
opinion
to reap the benefits of or the
or the
issues that come along with
consequences.
it.
But that's it's he's a dynamic character. I love the guy because he's dynamic. I don't care for almost anything else that he does because it is so divisive and it doesn't leave room for others to feel heard. If it doesn't feel heard, then you're separating. I don't like the
Right.
divisiveness to America, because the more we realize that we are us, the U.S., and that there should be no them in that scenario, or we will have conflicts with people. And being in the pursuit of a more perfect union should not just be within my own context, country, but my perfect union should be in the context with everybody. That's how I would have the perfect life, a utopian society would only be one that was in perfect harmony with everybody. So that should be a goal. And the only way to
Be
get rid of
bored out of your mind.
it, I'm bored out of my mind.
I said
Oh,
you would be bored out of your mind. I think that's the most the reason why people pay so much attention to all this stuff is it kind of it 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 kind of like makes them feel alive, like they're getting those high emotions and those low emotions rather than the neutral emotions. Whereas back in the days, most of the day was like a neutral emotion. Nowadays, you could have all high emotions or all low emotions if you want. I mean, you could have your whole algorithm full of like cute little kitty cats doing weird things and be happy all the time. But most people choose to have, you know, the things that feel make them feel negative and make them feel like they're a part of a team. And you know, it's what we did in Ink Master. You know what I mean? Like
well, isn't
you,
there algorithms? Aren't there algorithms that are actually designed to inspire more angered content? So, like if you have a bunch of puppies and cute kittens in your algorithm, I understood way off base here, but the algorithm itself was designed in a way to be like offering you torture videos on the same.
put nature is metal. You start seeing nature is metal. You never
Yes.
follow that Instagram. So
It's
you're
stuff
like looking at these
exactly like
cute
that.
little puppies like snuggling each other, and then all of a sudden there's like a rat like ripping apart a snake or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Though I don't know that that's true, but I have heard that the algorithm inspires those kinds of content. So, like, if you're like, I love this political thing, then they are excited to give you more of the opposite of that. I got a friend,
Yeah.
Woody Dammit. He's on the Instagram there, TikTok actually, and he's successful with it and does a good job, and the people like him. But his platform gets raised more if he talks with a lisp, acts effeminate. He's got a beard, so it's pretty
Right.
obvious, right? And then ties his shirt to the side. The anger rises those posts uh, more than the love, but it's a matter of how
Yeah. I
much.
mean, that's we learned that through Ink Master. I mean, your claim to fame is the most negative things that you did on Ink Master. I mean, you almost fought Chris Nunez. That YouTube videos probably watched more than almost all of them. And then you almost fought that big dude. I don't know who he was, one of your clients on Redemption. And I see that shit pop up all the time. And I'm like, there's Kyle, fucking asshole, fucking
Angry
try to fight
Kyle.
people all the time. But
They
I mean,
yeah,
that's your
I do.
claim to fame, and all my claims to fame on Ink Master, not all of them, but there's a bunch of them that are me fighting with someone or me fucking up a tattoo, or it's always more on the negative side.
Thank God for you. It's at least tattoo related. It, it doesn't
Yeah,
feel
right.
good. It'd be like, because I'm not a like that. It doesn't inspire people to get tattooed by me, and maybe more it inspires them to challenge me to fights. And I'm not a good fighter. I just
But what'd be interesting is seeing your life side by side with and without Ink Master. I bet you that after Ink Master, your life, as far as like the amount of people that were interested in you or interested in getting tattooed by you, was elevated. So when you're thinking people don't want to get tattooed by you right now, I mean, everybody obviously is feeling it at some capacity. Uh, I don't think it's because of you yelling on Ink Master. I mean, dude, like you remember Inky from
yes,
my season, the one that like
yes.
stabbed the ink bottle and shot ink, and I mean she got
CJ,
eliminated. CJ, yeah, she got eliminated the first episode. I mean, she did horrible. She spelled a word wrong. She was just it just they made her look really bad, and I remember her feeling really really bad about it. But people get tattooed by her even after all of that because they want to say that they got tattooed by someone who was on TV. So even the people who've done bad on that show have received some sort of elevation of status because of it,
yeah.
at least in other people's eyes. I mean, obviously there's people in the tattoo industry that demote you just because you've been on that show. Uh, but
It's a difference of who you can market to. I do know that Clay Dunn, and I don't know it's the same. He won't come on the podcast because his anxiety is typically too high. And he
well, he
had to
told me he
deal
was
with,
mad at you.
yeah, sure he did. I don't think, does he get angered?
I
He
don't
must
know.
have some. He's always worried about size. I think he's too worried to get angry.
I only talked to him once back in the days when he did a new school tattoo on Ink Master, and I think we had a little back and forth. But outside of that, I haven't really talked to him.
How was the back and forth? Was it positive?
Oh yeah, no, it was good.
Okay.
I mean, he had thanked me. I think I when he did the back piece or something, I think I complimented it, and he was like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know that you inspired, this and that." And he's very very kind.
Yeah. Right on. Oh well. I mean, not oh well, but if I wanted to increase my algorithm with this show, it would have been better if you mind just ad libbing that for me so I can put it in Instagram and be like, no, Jason Claydon called me up and he was like, fuck you, how dare you steal my
What is
genre?
You know what? I don't. So I obviously know you guys were on the show together,
Yeah,
or no? Oh,
yes,
you
yeah.
were. Was there
They
any
try
drama between you two?
tried to make some and they had some. It was good drama that could have been a TV show. It could have been an episode, but it went into the trash can of editing. Um,
Well,
I'm
what
a
happened?
little bit mad because the producers are pumping me up, So I'm at the moment, I'm a little mad. They're pumping me up. They're like, damn, man, you gave him the dragon to tattoo. And he kept saying he wanted to impress these guys with a dragon. And he shit the bed. But you gave him the tattoo. So you still did that. Now he turns around and he gives you the Coliseum of all the tattoos to do. You got to do that Coliseum. And man, it's a lot. And the customer's not the easiest to work with. And he gave the Stonehenge that you would have rather done to Jackie, and she didn't do anything for him. So that consideration, and you're right there in it. The producers are kind of blowing you up a bit. It's just one or two of them, but they're saying it. They're like, yeah, and they ping pong you. Hey, I want to talk to you for a second. You're like, oh, that's funny. I just had a conversation with Kyle Turboss about the same thing. It wasn't Kyle actually that season. I can't remember the names, but and then they forced the scene. All right, Kyle in the pool room. Are you mad? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to give this kid what for. They bring him in. And I'm like, dude, you fucking give me this Coliseum and I already gave you the dragon. And he says, he actually, he diffused all of it right away. He looks like Porky Pig. And so he just looked at me and went, like that kind of, like Porky Pig almost. And then he says, Jackie cooks me breakfast every day, Kyle. And I couldn't hit him. He was too damn cute for it. Something about that look on his face. Um, Stopped it. Yeah. No, so that just went in the trash can. The producers were all, yeah, we didn't get her shot. I think some of it might
Yeah.
have made it in, and I think they tried to edit around it, but it was so short and it wasn't anything that drew out any real emotion. So
Well, and it's weird when you're on that show. You're like trying to like at least me, I was trying to analyze their angles. Like, where are they coming from? What are they trying to do with this, that, or whatever? And looking back, I feel like they probably just throw shit in every direction and wait for it to stick. And then after it sticks to a
yeah,
few people and a little bit of drama pops up, then of course the editing, they pick the most drama and they go with that because there was times where I was like, man, they're really going to kind of paint it in this angle, and then they didn't even put it in. And there's
yeah,
other times where I'm like, I think they're going to go super negative with this, and they end up making it positive for me or negative for you know what I mean. Like, and
yeah,
even with the critiques, I'm sure you felt it with the critiques. There'd be times I'd do a tattoo that would be like, meh, and they'd be like, this is the best tattoo you've ever done. And then I do a tattoo where I'm like, hit that shit out the park, and they'd be like, yeah, Jesse, you're just doing the same old shit. And I'm like,
the
can't
same
win,
old
man.
best shit.
And same old fucking googly eyed bullshit.
Yeah, but the best. If it was best and it's the same, then like last critique says I was best. I'm doing the same. Well, it's the best.
Yeah.
Why would I stop doing the best? It doesn't make sense. That's the
I mean,
argument, of course, with the show.
it's Ink Master. You're supposed to, you're supposed to be versatile. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, dude, I've played on that a couple times, and I don't know if you saw that time when I tattooed the dogs for charity, and you know, and then the other time when I did the parking ticket thing. It's like, of course, the negative gets noticed first because that's the way we're programmed. We're programmed to look out for danger and look out for negatives and protect ourselves and stuff like that. So if you can stimulate that first, then people pay attention, and then you can say what you have to say. And they might be mad at you or whatever, but they heard you. And I don't know if you've ever heard about this with perfumes. Did you know that they use like whale bile and beaver like some secretion from a beaver because it's like really smells really bad, and so they actually put that in fragrances, and so that'll catch your attention, and then you smell the good stuff. You don't notice it, but it's like triggering
Right.
your brain. Hey, there's a smell here, and you're like, oh, I noticed the smell, and then they of course follow it up with good stuff.
Yeah. I did know that they used those products. I did not know that they used them for the purposes of I mean, obviously all scents are there to make a response, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't know that they would try to trigger a negative response because it would have a stronger reaction and then follow it up with a nice pleasant smell, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you're like walking down the street and you smell some flowers, you're like, oh, that's pleasant. Like it gets this kind of like happy feel or whatever, and you're like, that's cool. But you smell like fucking dog shit and and your brain is like perked up to
Well,
fucking
they're
pay
not using
attention.
dog shit. Are they using
Now,
dog shit? Okay.
well, I mean, whale bile. I mean, and I want to say it was like some sort of like anal secretion of like
From
beavers
a
or something
beaver.
like that.
I've heard of
Yeah,
this or something maybe of the that being used in vanilla extract, in imitation
nice.
vanilla extract. However, it is actually not used in imitation vanilla extract. It
Yeah,
is they chemically try to produce the same and then
interesting.
use it in
Beaver. It says castoreum is a resinoid extract from a beaver's castor sac that is used in perfume to give a leather scent.
leather scent,
Yeah.
rich mahogany and leather. Right on. So it's going to be in musks.
What's yeah, right? Exactly.
Now,
Yeah,
is
all
that not?
this.
Can you check that same product with vanilla extract,
Yeah, let me see. Vanilla extract. I'll be
castoreum
the
or whatever?
I'll be the Jamie of this. Is there beaver goo in your artificial vanilla extract? Um, yeah, it's still talking about this castoreum used. But its less than ideal origins, castoreum smells pleasant. In the past, castoreum was burned by the Romans in lamps, but is in my desserts. Castoreum is labeled FDA, is generally recognized as safe, and because of that, companies aren't legally required to disclose when they use it due to the nature of where it's produced. Hard to extract. So it is possible that a bottle of artificial vanilla extract contains it, but the odds are very low.
I don't
So
see. That's the same that it seems
yeah,
like it would be more expensive and thereby cost prohibitive to extract land juice from beavers. Like for you need a beaver farm, you need shipping just for like if you don't have the beaver farm, you need to have like a network of people like, no, I harvest castoreum from my beaver. Who even has beavers? Larry Flint, it's the wrong kind of it's the wrong kind of fluid they're extracting there. Uh,
yeah.
at any rate, I appreciate you talking about the show because I'm curious how that would lead into your mental health because to me, having the expectations of a fan base has slowed me down from participating on a lot of platforms more readily. And for the exact thing, if people find out what a tree hugging hippie I am, uh, there's a concern. You know what I mean? Some people would be like, well, oh, I got it turned the wrong way. So if people find out what a tree hugging hippie I am, then I have a concern that I won't have people coming in for certain tattoos. Or if they knew my position on religion in many cases, as I've stated here, I'm doing a Jesus portrait in the next few months, we got to get scheduled with one of my neighbors, but it's a beautiful portrait. I can't wait to do it. These are things that maybe it's a tough one to say because if you come out on in a platform that might be anti, in somebody's opinion, anti their stance, now you're this terrible being.
Yeah, there's a couple angles there that I'd like to hit. One, as cheesy as it sounds, your vibe attracts your tribe. And I think that when you are yourself, it's going to attract people like you. And you're honestly probably, obviously I'm not speaking across the board because who knows, you could say something that the wrong person hears and then they blast it all over the internet, make it into something it's not, and you could end up losing a lot of potential people. But I think on the other side, you got to give people credit. I would say the majority of people aren't as bipolar as the internet makes people seem. There's a lot of people out there who who are probably a little more level-headed on which direction they lean on certain topics. I would say the majority of people probably don't even give a shit. And I think that's the thing that I try to tell a lot of people that are in this famous thing situation is most people don't give a fuck about you or me. Like, like you and, the people closest to you are the only ones who really care that much. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, we're a blip on a blip on the spectrum of humans on this planet that are making any sort of difference. You and I are two people who've been on reality TV who fucking do tattoos. There are way, way more important and way, way more famous people out there for people to attack if they want to.
Yeah, Brittany Mahomes. Go get her, guys.
Exactly.
She deserves
But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, obviously we have all had our share of drama in the tattoo world. I know that you've had some, I've had some, and find me any industry or any person on this entire planet that hasn't been through what you and I uh, have or are going through at some capacity, who's got any sort of limelight on them. Everyone, every single person you could think of has drama. I mean, fuck. The presidents of the United States have drama, and they're supposed to be, at least back in the day, they were supposed to be like the leaders of the world. Now it's like, oh, nobody has faith in them, or at least 50% of the the country doesn't, and 50% does on the opposite side. So
I feel like it might even be less. Certainly that we don't even have. It's almost less than 50% of us are voting. I think in some cases, right? So, and then I feel like it gets to be just the extremes that end up doing the real diehard. But I don't.
Yeah, notice it. I think it's like 30%, isn't it? What? How many votes? How many people voted last time?
I don't know, Jamie.
Oh, hold on, let me check it out. I want to say it was like about 2/3 of the voting eligible population turned out. So 66% of the people that were able to. I guess that's pretty good.
It's better than I was saying. So it's 16%. Oh, I lost that bet, but still a lowered number even of the eligible. Those people somewhere that don't care.
And then how many people are eligible in the grand scheme of things? Like, is it 50% are eligible, and then 60% of that 50% are the ones that are voting?
I think it would be everybody over 18 for the most part, right?
Well, and then you got your felons.
Only in certain states. Alabama, Florida, they got holdouts, and there's challenges. There have been challenges that have made it to the Supreme Courts. Not the current Supreme Court, but I think. But there is a question like, so I paid my debt to society. Why do I not have my rights restored? And the question then is, well, is the punishment enough? Or are you saying there has to be a lifelong punishment? Only in certain states, though. It was mostly, it was a racist law to start.
Oh, wait. So I have a question. Is Trump allowed to vote for himself?
In Florida? That is a serious question.
Can you imagine if he wasn't allowed to vote for himself? That's nuts. How much do you think that the internet plays in depression and anxiety?
I know for me, it does play almost a large amount because there's a over-imagined, but like as we talk about this, there's only 66% of the voting population that's even voting. That's 34%. That's a good number of people not voting. So what's that come down to for who really gives a fuck? But your algorithm and what you see on platforms gives you the idea that that's where everybody's at. It gives you a very polarized idea of the state of affairs of what you're looking at. So I think there's a perception that ends up leading into anxiety because some people are worried. Like if you go into guns, the issue of guns, there's a lot of anxiety for people who own guns that the left would try to take these guns. So if the left gets in any kind of power, they start getting scared. That anxiety is on the opposition side for all kinds of different issues too. But those things get elevated to the platform's algorithms as we understand it, and then generally makes for more depression and anxiety. More anxiety, more depression, more cortisol, more physiological changes too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, I've said this before, it's like back in the days, news came on at what, 5 and 11 o'clock, and you'd be like, "Oh shit, something bad happened today," or something little, but you maybe would watch it at 5 o'clock and 11 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I don't know what times they were, but it was a few times a
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Nowadays, when people are fucking all day, just digesting negative information about what's happening in the world. It's like this bad thing, that bad thing, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that definitely, rides the brain. It's like we have it in our DNA to be on alert when we are, given some sort of alert. And the alert is we're going into World War III, the president, da da da, and the libtards are coming after your kids or whatever, like whatever the things are. So I
Generally,
don't know, man.
generally driven by large corporate news organizations that
Right.
exist only to sell commercials. And the only
Get
way to sell
hits.
commercials to entertain, or one of the best ways, like if you came on and you told somebody, oh my fucking God, everything that we thought yesterday was wrong. We were 100%. And then let me lay out these plans and try, or these things that prove my point, all that on any news channel. I don't think consumership would be as high for the commercials that were being viewed. The actual ability of them to process and to work on the subconscious as opposed to the conscious. People would be engaged, and and you couldn't do the magic trick and then feed them the
Right.
red dyes or the food that's going to make them depressed and anxious or go to the doctor. So there is almost a need to give its audience a slighted, like if you watch like MSNBC or CNN sometimes, when these, especially these editorialized people, you can see it in their face sometimes. They're disgust for the politicians that they're talking about. And certainly if you go to Fox News, uh, I mean, it's like nothing but disgust sometimes in almost a humorous fashion, where when I watch it, sometimes I'll go somewhere and it will be on or something. And because I really don't watch the news, but you can see it even without audio. Sometimes you can see just this, because they'll back and forth between the news pundit and their topic. So you got the idea of the topic they're talking about. And then you go back to the face and his absolute abject disgust. And
Right. And we love watching that, right? I mean, that's way more interesting than two people agreeing or two people,
yeah,
even having a cordial disagreement. It's like we want to see people ripping people up. We want to see people get pissed off. We want to see people cry. I mean, these are all things that reality TV obviously has taught me. Is there's no win when everybody's just tattooing and giving each other accolades. It's like people want to. I mean, dude, I think I said this to you one time, like with the whole Jersey Shore thing. I would watch. I never watched Jersey Shore. I was a big reality TV fan back in the days when it was like, uh, you know, um, I Love New York and Rock of Love and all those shows. But I never really cared about Jersey Shore. And then Snooki got punched in the face or something like that, and I went straight to YouTube and I was like, I want to see Snooki get punched in the face. And then next thing you know, I'm hooked. And I'm like, why am I watching this garbage? And I mean, even when we were on Ink Master, it was like people the people would get online and yell and shout about how they hated Ink Master before they would be like, I love Ink Master. I remember I was hanging out with Saint, um, and the
St. Mark.
Tattoo God. Yeah, the Tattoo God. And we were shooting like some sort of redemption or something like that. And I remember it was like on Twitter, there was these two girls that were talking on there, and they're like, "Oh, we love Jesse," da da da. And then the one chick came back, and then so this was like I don't know four interactions. The girl was like, "Hey, you remember Jesse from the Master?" And she's like, "Oh, I love him." And she's like, "Da da da, something something, whatever." Four interactions, and then one of them came back and was like, "But I hate Saint Mark," and it was like 16, 20 interactions talking about Saint Mark. And I remember looking at him and being like, dude, you just stole my fire, man. These two chicks were talking about me and now they're talking about you. And you know, they just that was the length of the conversation was, you know, tenfold longer discussing the negativity of St. Mark versus the positivity of me.
Follow the Mystical Mike was on for like 2 episodes, and he is one of the most remembered characters. Certainly behind myself, but I'm remembered for a negative effect too. So
Dude, I love Mystical Mike. I mean, he
I was
was
just hanging out.
so entertaining to me.
He is. I shared a ride home with him from Illinois, from DeKalb to Chicago, and there's level, there's amounts. That's why I should say I love Mystical as well. I don't want that to be misconstrued. There's levels of him though that you can be like, okay, now I need some time. God bless
Yeah, I mean, I never really hung out with him, but just watching him on TV was so entertaining. I mean, I remember seeing him doing cartwheels, and you know, the people come in and start talking shit to him, and he just seems like so aloof. He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm the
him.
best tattoo artist in the world. Why are you mad at me?" It's just so funny watching him. I mean, he's just so entertaining.
His energy is that too, exactly that, and it's pretty nonstop. So I did the silent, the attempted silence just to see it because it's entertaining to me, and he's right next to me as I'm driving, and my radio wasn't working, but for one channel, I didn't like the channel, and so he's like, he was ready to put some music on his phone. I was like, nah, come on, man, let me just give me full on mic, you know, let me get some of this. And then at the end of the ride, I was like, yeah, that was enough. That was
So you
maybe
got him
10 minutes.
you got an acapella Mystical Mike.
Yeah, he can. He is a musician as well.
Oh,
I think he did play me some of their music
that's
some
funny.
at some point. Yeah,
I
God bless
remember
though. Negative.
you know, before Instagram, like right when Instagram came out with live, of the ability to like broadcast something live, and Twitter was broadcasting. I think it was like Periscope or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was like
Yeah,
right at the beginning when you could actually put things online live. And I remember I was recording Mystical Mike at one of the reunions or something, one of the shows, and he started talking, and the shit he was talking smack about one of the other contestants, like legit smack, not like, oh, it's bad tattoo, like shit behind the scenes type stuff. And he just started going off saying all this shit. And I'm like, whoa, man. I was like, this is live. Like, you know, back then I
yeah.
probably had thousands of people watching, you know, while I was not interviewing, but just talking to him. And and I was like, hey man, you can't say that shit on live, man. Like, you know,
It will be
there's
held
no
against you.
editing. Right. Yeah. Or the person you're talking smack back about.
Right. Right. Yeah. They might want to smack you. Have you
Right.
had any memorable experiences that you kind of still from Ink Master days you kind of still remember at all that affect
Oh, of
you or
course. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, the quality of work that I did on that show, you know, for the most part was definitely there was times where you know, I don't know if you saw that portrait that I did where I got kicked off on season two. It's like, you know, that's a pretty traumatic situation that, you know, stimulated growth in me in the long run, which was good. But at that particular point in time, it was very traumatic. I mean, you know, I had already established a certain level of success at that point, and everything that the public had seen from me was curated via, you know, me doing what I want to do and putting it in the public's eye. And then that was one of the first times where I did a tattoo that I really wasn't happy with, and it was being seen by more people than had ever seen my portfolio prior. So that always sticks out in my mind. And then I would say, you know, all the like quasi confrontational stuff that I had with certain individuals on that show definitely, you know, rides my brain as well. Because I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think I really enjoy legit confrontation. And so when you're on that show and you're kind of forced into that position, uh, in front of millions of people, it kind of brings out a side of you that you don't particularly enjoy. At least with me, it was.
You know, like, yeah,
But
I can attest to the same.
I'm sure you can. Have you managed to get Chris Nunez on here, or have you talked to him at all?
No, no, not
You know,
yet.
he actually commented on one of my pieces the other day, which I was surprised,
What he said?
and just gave me some
Saying,
thumbs up on one
okay,
of them.
he didn't send you a trick pony.
Nah. I mean, Chris and I have hung out a couple times since the show.
How do you
You
find
know,
him then? Most people find him to be a bit arrogant and off-putting. How do you find him? You must have hung out with him.
he's always been very respectful to me. I've never had any, yeah, like when we hung out one on one, he's always been very respectful to me, and never, I never felt like he was being arrogant towards me or whatever. But I always felt like he had a certain level of respect for me in general, even when he was on the show. Like the things he would say to me while I was on the show were, were kind about my work. Aside from the fact that I remember him once saying something along the lines of, there's no rules in new school. You can do whatever you want. And I just remember being like, what? Why would you say that?
Yeah, it's that's not true.
Yeah, of course. But,
If it
I
was
know that
no
he's
rules
your
in new school, then it would be portraits as well. You could just look at everything, right? It's new school.
right.
See that new
Yeah.
school Banksy piece?
What
That
was that?
the new school Banksy. He doesn't do Banksy doesn't do new
Oh,
school.
right.
You're like, it doesn't
Yeah,
qualify. I'm sorry. All art
right.
would be new school.
Exactly. But I know,
Oh,
I know you guys had your thing. So you haven't talked to him outside of the show at all or nothing?
he called me and I talked to him briefly in the living room of
Yeah.
my old house there, and he got more of a context of what I was going through. And I mean, I was going through a foreclosure at the time too. I had a bunch of
Oh,
artists
geez.
that just left my shop, and it was just me and my wife now with big bills and all. So
Oh,
yeah, everything was kind of crap at the time. And then he's piling on during the show. So I'm like, yeah, eventually, dude. I felt like that's what they wanted from me. I felt like the
sure.
producers wanted that too.
Of
And
course they did. Of
I
course
don't
they
think
did.
they did want it, but I think they did want to push it and see if it, because they have to
I
not
mean,
want it after they get it.
they wanted you to act erratically. They were definitely trying to poke you to act erratically. I don't know that they particularly wanted you to try to beat Chris up or anything, but I mean, I saw them doing that shit to fucking Sarah. Like they would fucking put Sarah on fucking cloud nine. They'd be like, Sarah, you're the best fucking tattoo artist in the world. You're fucking awesome. And Sarah would be like so happy, and you could just see her, and she was just so happy. And then the next time they would fucking tear her up, and it was just like her emotions were just like boom, boom. And they want those extreme emotions. So if they feel like they can stimulate that in you, then they're going to do it. They don't expect you to start trying to beat people up.
Do you
I
think
mean,
that
I'm
was that when they were doing that with Sarah? You think that was a planned?
oh fuck yeah,
Okay.
of course. I mean, it's just as planned as them telling you that Jason Clay Dunn was this, that, or whatever. And why would you do that? Like, what? Why would you do that? Why would anybody? I mean, I know people do it, but like, if I hear you talking shit about whatever Chris Nunez, and you and I are friends, and obviously we're not on an interview and all this stuff, but you say, hey, Chris Nunez fucking did this, that, or whatever, and Chris Nunez is one of my friends, and you're one of my friends, I would try to flatten it out right there. I'd be like, Chris is a jerk sometimes, but he's got a good heart. I don't think he meant anything by it. And then Chris would come
Yeah.
and be like, oh, Kyle Dunbar this. And I would try to flatten it out in the middle. The producers ain't trying to do that. The producers are like proactively stimulating negative emotions in your mind and ideas that other people are out to get you. That's what they did it to me all the time. They were like, exactly what you said. They'd be like, did you feel like so and so was doing this when they said this? And I'm like, not really. I didn't even think about it. But now that you're saying it, I can see where you think that. And
Yeah.
then they just kind of keep on going. And then
Who?
they're sitting in the background. I remember I got in a fight with Christian, and the producer was behind Christian to the side, and she was literally like hands up in the air going like this when I was fighting him. Like she was like cheering me on. So of course, man. I mean, and dude, I,
How
I
did you
don't hate on
respond?
him for it.
How do you respond
It
when you see that? I mean, you're already filming, so you can't just stop what you're doing, and you also see that it's being applauded. How do you
well,
respond in the moment?
I was already in the throes of it, man. I mean, can you imagine like you can't imagine, but you're in the throes of like, in a fight, like legit emotional fight, because I wasn't fighting with Christian like for TV. I was like legitimately upset. And so then I've got kind of this quasi like cheerleader situation going on. And it's almost like, okay, it's almost quasi empowering because you're like, okay, someone's on my side when I'm saying these things. Uh, so yeah, I mean, and once again, I don't blame them, man. I do a lot of like controversial things, like whenever I'm making a video to, show off a T-shirt or to sell a product or something like that. It's like, are you just
Make
gonna
some
be like,
clickbait.
here's a T? Yeah, kind of. It's like, here's a T-shirt, buy it, or hey, I got this new T-shirt. We've seen that a million times, so you got to figure out a different way to like spark interest in that video so that it catches that algorithm and it's shown to more people, which of course opens up more opportunity for sales. So all of that stuff totally makes sense. It's just,
Let's talk about conventions for a minute. You mind?
okay.
You don't mind. You've
Yeah.
got an awesome convention. You guys had a blast. What would you say would separate your convention from these others that you've mentioned then in other conventions?
Well, I mean, I think the historical value of the Richmond convention is super important. And it's something that Richmond has that none of the other conventions can have. Like there's no way around it. I mean, it's been going on for 36 years. It's housed and grown a ton of amazing tattoo artists throughout those 36 years. I mean, we're talking about Paul Rogers, Lyle Tuttle, Gil Monty, uh, Sailor Moses, Philadelphia Eddie. Like, I mean, the amount of people who have like literally been there and worked it at some capacity is pretty much unbeatable when it comes to the world of tattoo conventions. So that's probably the biggest thing that we have that other conventions can't have. I do think there's other conventions out there that have been going on for a while. I want to say there's one out in Seattle that's been going on for 38, 39 years or something like that. But for the most part, it's one of the oldest in the world. And it's just, a lot of the people who you and I know in the tattoo industry who are killing it right now are generations stacked on top of the people who started at the Richmond convention. And even prior to the Richmond convention, there was clubs. This guy named Grandpa Groovy had these like it was called I think it was called the Tattooists of the Confederacy or something like that. And they had little clubs, and they would meet up in the same exact hotel that we tattoo in right now, and they would just hang out and share ideas. They were probably tattooing, but it wasn't open to the public.
Okay.
And it's interesting because a lot of people send me a lot of stuff now about the history of the convention. They're sending me like little certificates that they found on while they were digging through their stuff. Um, so it's really cool, like kind of seeing the timeline. And we've actually created a timeline. So if you go to richmondtattooconvention.com/history, we have a timeline of all the information that we have from 1988 all the way until now, uh, of everything that's happened with this convention. The different people who have hosted it and what happened to those people, the people that have attended it. Guar played here in 1989 in the hotel, which is really cool. So I've been trying to actually get them to come back and play again.
They played at the
But
convention
yeah, in the
or
hotel,
just,
and this was
oh,
back.
wow.
This was in
89.
'89. So yeah, so we've got pictures of them playing in the actual ballroom upstairs, where we have two ballrooms. There's an upstairs and downstairs. So we have pictures of them playing in the upstairs ballroom. It's really cool.
I had no idea they were even that old, I guess.
We got videos of Paul Rogers doing his last tattoo at the Richmond convention.
See the shirt here?
So,
Skyver. I don't know.
oh
Maybe
yeah,
it's
Skyler.
backwards. Actually, it's probably backwards. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
So that's who was telling me of the Richmond Tattoo Convention and how much fun he had. Now, Skyver, he's an old salt. Is that the right? terminology. He's an old soul. I don't even know if that's
He's
right.
definitely an old soul. But
He's a
him
young
being an old
soul, but
soul, and
he's
he's
a grizzled veteran.
I mean, the fact that he's willing to put himself in I mean, think about it. Like, I think the reason why there's so much division in the older population of the tattoo world and the newer is a lot of the old people don't feel comfortable in a room full of, younger, newer artists. Whereas Skyver, I mean, he doesn't has no issue at all. He's popping in, he's getting along with everybody. Like he legitimately enjoys communicating with everybody. Um, so I think that, and that's been my goal with this tattoo convention is to be able to create a scenario where the older generations can have a space, but also the newer generations can have a space as well. Because if you only are having one group, whether it's all progressive, or I'll say newer or traditional, you end up stagnating in one way or the other. If you're only having Ink Masters at your show, then you're just an Ink Master show. But if you can sit there and kind of like have this bridge between the traditional tattoo world and what's happening today, I feel like that would be like the strongest community.
Well, Skyver reported back that you could hear one entire floor almost, or one entire section. And he said you could hear, it sounded like an old tattoo convention because of all the old coils. There's
The coils, yeah.
music to his ears.
Yep. The funny thing is I always, so, you get the like Ink Master section or whatever. And I don't particularly put it like that, but it's like, of course, Ink Masters are friends with Ink Masters and they want to sit next to each other and stuff like that. But it's like you have like a bunch of these Ink Masters and younger tattoo artists, and you've got James Vaughn and fucking Clean just clacking away on their fucking coils the whole time. It's pretty funny.
I just saw Clean using a pen this last weekend.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to talk shit about him. Hold on one second, Kyle. I just had this thing that Skyver sent me. It was a picture of Grandpa Groovy, was the guy who threw the first convention here in Richmond, but I can't find it. Oh, it's right there. Hey, babe, can you handle that to me? That box right there? Yeah. But he sent me this picture. So this is an old picture of the guy who threw the first Richmond convention. And Skyver had all his stuff, had that fire and everything. It was
Wow.
pretty cool, huh?
Dude. Yeah, and that was at the museum then at one point.
Probably. Look at his shirt. The tattoo artist of the Confederacy or something like that.
Okay, that was the club. Yeah, that almost sounded or sounds dangerous. Like I don't know that if I saw that convention meeting, I don't know that I would attend these days.
Yeah, I mean, back then, at least I don't know, but I assume back then that they didn't connect the dots on what that flag meant. I mean, I know a lot of people that I know, even including myself. I mean, I'll watch the Dukes of Hazards, and there was a rebel flag on the Dukes of Hazards, and you're just like, oh, cool, I like the car, and whatever, but you don't really understand the roots behind that flag, and so I don't know, like
even in the
giving people the
understanding,
benefit of the doubt.
if you're a real flag
Sure.
geek, even in the understanding of their understanding, they don't have proper context or understanding. As it's become something that it never even stood. It was a naval flag and only as a square, and so the rectangle version of it was never really seen on any battlefield. And it wasn't. They were a loose knit group. They weren't so. They didn't have the same flag. Many of their flags had that Southern Cross that was a naval patch of sorts, and for honorary service in the Navy or whatever. They put that in the left corner as though it was their field of, and then they had a white flag besides that because of the purity of their race. So it was racist there. But then when it wasn't blowing in the wind,
they were surrendering, dude. They were surrendering. That's what the white flag was for.
It looked like it when it wasn't blowing in the wind, so it wasn't used over very many at all. But the ability to make that flag, also thinking of like what it takes to make a flag in that day and age, that was a tough flag to make. 5-pointed stars were tough to make. so it didn't really get put on these things. That was the big thing about Betsy Ross. She made 5-pointed stars for our American flag, and that was a she had some kind of special thing that allowed her, because that you could do a 4-pointed star, right? But a 5-pointed star, you're cutting that. You got a bunch of old ladies with their knitting hands out and doing whatever they do to make the stuff. That's a tough cut. But she had some secret shortcut.
It's so crazy. It's like, back in the days, that was like your claim to fame. It's like she just invented the new way of doing stars. And it's like, now we have in the tattoo world, it's like, oh shit, they made that shit 3D or whatever.
Yeah. Betsy thinks she's so special with her 5-pointed stars. Her seams still look like shit. Sorry, I'm off. Was any advice you would have for young artists that are breaking into the tattoo industry and thinking about doing conventions?
I mean, you mean like, should they be doing them, or well, I don't know I don't understand your question so much.
Yeah, do you have any advice on how they would do it? Like it's a costly ticket. It's a costly fare. So help them understand. I can tell them my opinion of why they should travel, and why they should do these
Yeah, I
things.
mean, I always feel like just surrounding yourself by different people and exposing yourself to different people and putting yourself out there. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. You put yourself out there and you're opening yourself up for critique and someone to get upset with you or whatever, but you also get a lot of positive from it too. You meet a lot of cool people. It's really awesome these days. After being in for almost 30 years, it's like I know all these people who are like running certain things, whether they're running a convention or a magazine or a distribution company or something. And it's like, if I need something, I just call up one of my friends that I've known for 30 plus years. And I met those people via traveling because obviously the internet wasn't there, but you get a different, more genuine experience face to face than you do like throwing comments on Instagram. I mean, some of these people are, I've traveled with them for weeks at a time, had long conversations with them. You get a better idea of who they are as people versus I feel like on Instagram, it's just really easy to like be friends, you know, like, oh,
But there's
nice
true
tattoo.
community then. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's true community then or it's the best way to knit the fabric of community for tattoo artists. And that community pays off.
Are you talking about Instagram or are you talking about the conventions?
Oh no, conventions. Yeah. The community on Instagram is not easy, and it's loosely knit, and it's I don't know, it's not nearly what you would get from going to a tattoo convention and not bringing scissors.
Right. You got to borrow them from the person next to you. You're like too nervous to talk to them.
All weekend long.
Yeah.
Hey, can I borrow these scissors Friday? And then again later on today, and then again sometime tomorrow, and then again tomorrow, and then several times tomorrow, and then Sunday as well. It'd be awesome if you had scissors for me to use every fucking time. I'm gonna have to get to know this guy, and that's a community.
Dude, that was Electric Pick. I don't know if you ever knew about Electric Pick, but he was this French Canadian artist that I used to travel with all the time. Really amazing illustrator. Not so much into the glamour and glitz of the tattoo world. Like I'm sure he hates the TV shows and all that stuff. I haven't talked to him in a while, but yeah, every time we traveled, he's like, dude, can I get a needle? And this was back when you're traveling with your tubes and your needles and all your inks and all that shit. Hey, can I borrow some of your ink? I mean, like it would take me twice as long to set up because he's asking me for all this shit and I'm having to dig around and get it for him. But yeah, there's been multiple people. I mean, I get people that come do guest spots at my shop, and we got a station right now in between me and Jason, and they come and they're like, "Hey, can I borrow some of this? Can I get some of that?" I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, you better give me a cut."
You get 10% supply fee. That's probably what started
Exactly.
Derb. Is that not like he probably got tired of people borrowing from him? He's like, I've got the supply. Derb probably doesn't lend out a single needle. Think about it. Is who would approach the supply company owner with, "Hey, can I get a 5-liner? Except, yeah, they're over there about $30 for a box, bro.
What does he do? He does that at a shop, or what are you talking about?
Derb has a supply company.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Okay.
I'm asking about the 10% thing that you were talking about.
Oh no, no. I mean, at one point, I wonder if you decide that you're going to start up a supply company just to stop people
Right,
from borrowing your five liners.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like, dude, that and the amount of money those supply companies have made over the years, it's pretty awesome. Just seeing as everything has grown, and then seeing the profit margins. I mean, I remember looking at that Sensitive wrap stuff, like that stretchy wrap
Yeah,
stuff. I think I saw that, and it was like if you buy that shit in bulk, it's like 5 cents a roll or something, and they're selling that shit for like $1 and some change. I'm like, God, that is a heck of a profit margin. I mean, obviously, there's other things involved. There's marketing, there's
right.
employees, there's all that stuff. But man, just to think about that markup, man, is pretty fucking crazy.
Um, man, yeah, I didn't know, but still, I mean, I guess that's probably what everybody's doing is buying the supply company. They have to have a warehouse, and other
Yep.
than that, well, I guess you got to. I'm not. I'm not trying to. Why haven't you done it?
Dude, it's weird because I have a company that is called Method Tattoo System. I don't know if I've talked to you about this at all, but essentially it's like a ink storage organizational system. And I basically it's just like a slat wall, and it has these shelves that hold your ink bottles like this, so you can just see all your colors instead of having to pick them up,
Yeah.
And there's different variations of this type of idea out there. But I like this idea because it was more modular. So you could have 1 ounce bottles, you could have 2 ounce bottles, there's flat shelves. Like you could just kind of
Change it
organize it.
around like you can
Yeah.
mix with your refrigerator now.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the things that bugged me about the way that some of the other ones were is like if you bought a 2 ounce, like, I don't know, we'll just call them a rack. You bought a 2 ounce rack, and let's say you decided you wanted 4 ounce bottles or 1 ounce bottles. Um, Now you have to get a whole new rack. Whereas this one, you could just, switch things around and get
Are
different
you
shelves.
are you marketing that now? Then
No.
do
And
you have
so
it for
here's the,
sale though?
yeah, it's on sale. If you go to methodtattoosystem.com,
Okay.
they're all up there. But the thing I learned about pretty much anything that doesn't revolve around art and artists is I get kind of bored with it. So it's like this method tattoo system is retail, and I'm just not that interested in retail. The retail that I've done is have been like t-shirt designs and hats and stickers
Yeah.
and prints and stuff. They all revolve around the art. So the art, this is just a way to distribute the art, whereas like the method tattoo system is distributing pieces of essentially PVC to people so that they can organize
A
their ink.
product,
So
a
yeah, it's a
widget.
product. It just doesn't. I don't know, man. I mean, I was kind of really inspired because I was like, man, I really like this idea, but I just realized that I'm not really interested in that side of the business at all. I just like
Yeah.
the creation of art, and so, anyways, that's why.
So you must
Uh,
then be looking for somebody that wants to take that up.
yeah, you want it?
No, 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 no. I feel the same. If I'm not inspired to do it, I haven't been doing podcasts because I lost a lot of inspiration. So
I'm
same.
glad you picked it back up for me, man.
Well, I wanted to have someone on three times. I was like, have I had anybody on three times?
It's a
You're
hat
like
trick, man.
yeah, you're like the Tom Hanks of my show
Awesome. Yeah,
of
that's good.
SNL. My battery's going dead though, so let me give you one question to please. I was going to ask you if you could give any advice to any young tattoo artist entrepreneurs, um, but you don't like entrepreneurial. So the method system is sitting on a shelf, literally a shelf sitting on a shelf in your shop.
Well, okay, so the whole entrepreneur thing, obviously that runs between like doing a tattoo convention, running, merch with artwork on it, and then running a tattoo shop, and then also running yourself as a tattoo artist, right? So those are all entrepreneurial endeavors. Um, the one thing that I tell everybody when they're talking about opening shops and all this stuff is, you know, whenever you do something like that, it's going to take away from the other thing. So it's like, I've always said this about like anything. If you have one piece of artwork, let's say you got a painting from Picasso, you'd be like, wow, that's my painting from Picasso. It's hanging on the wall. Now, if you got two paintings, then you love them 50%. If you get three paintings, 33%, et cetera, et cetera. So everything that you add to your plate pulls away from the, your ability to enjoy it, your ability to focus on it, all of that stuff. So if your goal is to be an awesome artist, if that's your goal, don't open a tattoo shop. Because as soon as you open a tattoo shop, that diminishes by 50%. If you want to, I mean, even if you're trying to do a bare bones tattoo shop where you're like, okay, I'm doing booth rent, they just give me money, whatever. You still got to run inventory. You still got to order supplies. You still got to pay the rent. You still got to pay for any repairs on the building that you might need. You still got to pay for marketing. It's all there, except for now you have a person who's paying you booth rent who expects something for the booth rent that they're giving you. So I was having this conversation with Dave Koenig not too long ago because he ended up opening up his own spot, and he was like talking about potential avenues. And I said, "Listen, Dave, I was like, you're an awesome artist." And I said, the last thing you want to do is be managing people. You have to have a receptionist and you have to have all this stuff. I was like, if you want to truly be an artist and that's your primary goal, don't open a production shop.
Yeah.
You can have a booth for people to come and do guest spots or whatever, but even for the completely hands-off people, there's still things that are going to arise. I mean, if let's say one of their clients gives you a bad Google review, that bad Google review is on your tattoo shop. It's not on that artist. So as soon as that artist leaves, you're stuck with that review. So then you have to deal with that situation. So yeah, I mean, my advice to young entrepreneur artists is you know, make sure that you're ready to give up at least 50% of your art career or
It
tattoo
almost sounds
career.
like you're saying pick one. My advice is pick one.
Yeah, I mean, I still tattoo, and I
Yeah,
still
you
love
own a
what I
shop.
do. I own a shop. Obviously, I have a tattoo convention. I have a flourishing product line, the Method Tattoo System.
This is
Sarcasm.
built from your community that you've created then though, in that you hire a manager for your shop. You have
Yeah,
people that you work with for your tattoo convention. And
yeah.
this may go dead at any time. My battery is dying. But that then I guess is, if you're jumping into it as a tattoo artist and you don't have community, then you're probably going to fail as the entrepreneurial part because you're not going to be able to have the right hiring ability. And
Yeah, there's a spectrum there. I mean, you get these guys who come in and they run a tattoo shop like perfectly, but then their tattoos suck and they don't have a good reputation and all that stuff. Then you got the tattoo artists who are fucking amazing, but they can't run a shop to save their lives. Um, so it's a weird balance. But yeah, I don't know, man. Sometimes I miss the days where I was 100% focused on tattooing and not in art and stuff like that, and very free. Like you can travel really easily. You
yeah,
don't have these huge responsibilities. And I used to think back in the days, I was like, oh, yeah, you just hire a shop manager and they'll take care of everything. And, that you still got to guide them. And then, after you get a great shop manager, what if they quit on you? Now you got to train a new one. Or, there's just,
you have to
there's a,
pay them
well,
competitively. You have to keep up
right.
with the changing times and their options that they have. See, there's a lot on it. I'm considering doing it again myself. So I guess I'm almost asking for myself, what should I do this time instead of, but I am prepared.
Well,
With that
the
though,
gra- I want to say a few things real quick. The grass is always greener on the other side. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably want to be opening the shop again or whatever and going back and forth. But the other thing I want to say is, dude, your podcast is awesome. I think you're made to do this, and I think that you should keep it up. I also think that this is, when you start talking about mental health and stuff like that, I mean, I think this is somewhat of you know, somewhat of a counseling session for you when you're communicating with other people. It's like something that makes you feel good, and
I'm
I'd love
glad
to
that
see
you
you keep
sense
it up.
that because that
Yeah,
is true. After the TV show, there was something cathartic about being able to get in a room and have a producer that loved every joke you told was the funniest shit. Every
Right.
emotion that you felt was like, no, you're justified. Feel that.
Yeah.
And absence of that, or community or communication, I tend to withdraw and go through depression. So I'm kind of coming through a bit now. If you
Good.
can.
Well, hey man, anything I can do to help, and I
You
do.
have.
I think you're awesome at running a podcast. I mean, I've been on tons of podcasts and talked to tons of people and been interviewed by tons of people, and majority of them, you can just feel that what they're trying to do is they're trying to use your fan base to amplify their podcast, and they're not really interested in what you're saying. Whereas when I talk to you, I feel like you are interested and you do have great questions. So you got a lot of good stuff that I think that other podcasts don't have.
Appreciate that.
Plus you're very comfortable being real and talking about things, even if I mean, we spent a whole time talking about white privilege that one time. And I mean, being able to breach that topic on any other podcast is very difficult because, typically
Two,
people don't feel comfortable talking about that stuff.
two bald white guys talking about race issues just makes sense.
Of course.
No, I'm kidding. Dude, thank you so much for that. I'm going to try and take the compliment and go with it as opposed to what I typically do and shy away from them.
Of course.
But thank you for that. And
I understand that feeling
I
too,
know,
man. I
yeah,
understand that feeling too. Like when people compliment you, you want to kind of dismiss it. But the other thing to say is, how many times have you given someone a compliment and you want them to have it and you want them to take it? So it makes you feel good to give someone a compliment and have them take it versus giving them a compliment and having them push it off. So
I just listened to a podcast on the importance of being a receiver and how you.
yeah.
It wasn't all gay porn. It wasn't on my Grindr account. I know what you're thinking. But the importance of being a receiver, if giving is better than receiving, that's almost wrong. Receiving
Right.
has to be better than giving, or you're not. Nobody's being able to get blessed. There's all these squandered opportunities because you're like, no, I would rather. But I typically am one that doesn't like to receive for fear of the necessity of reciprocating, I guess. And
yeah, I feel that too. I feel that too.
Like
But
there's almost a need to isolate more, or a desire to isolate, and that necessity of reciprocation should look like an opportunity, and it is. But there's a few.
I always say this too, like, because my girl and I actually get in these scenarios all the time where we'll go out to eat with someone and then they want to pay, and my girl feels very uncomfortable when people try to pay for us. And I said, well, babe, they want to pay for us, like, and just as when we pay for someone, we want to pay for them as well. It's like a gift. Like you don't want to try to give someone a gift and then be like, no, thank you. Like you want them to receive that gift and you want to have that connection with them. So I know it's tough. I mean, I feel the same way sometimes. Sometimes people lay it on very strong, and you're just like, oh, geez, man, that's you get that imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm not that good, or I'm not that nice of a person, or whatever. But dude, for whatever it's worth, from my perspective, I think you got a good thing going here. I think you should take it as far as you possibly can. And anytime you want me on your podcast, I'll be there.
Well, let's do another one on NFTs and mental health, because we didn't talk about that this time at all. And honestly, I think I got like 3% battery life, which usually means stayed too long and said too much, which I think is just fine in this case. But let's do it again, man. You mind coming back on a fourth time?
Dude, I'll come on here every day. We can just start a podcast with just you and me talking shit.
I'm with it. Jazz was going to start a podcast with me too, but I feel like I could do several. Jazz and I wanted to start a podcast, but if the title is the libtard and the racist.
Nice.
And he was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing.
I mean, the cool thing is you could potentially just have a show where you just have people just kind of pop in, like, I don't know, like think about like
co-host.
Not Howard Stern isn't a great example, but like, he's got his like kind of people that are always there and popping in and out, and then he's got his guests per se. So maybe it's like, hey Jesse, you want to come in and interview Chris Nunez with me or whatever? I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it, man.
Yes, that's just been okay. That's what's happening then. So talk to Chris. Let's set this up.
if I get into a position to actually have that type of conversation with Chris, I will of course try to
Appreciate that.
flatten out the drama for sure. Hence the
To
fact
one
that they didn't
level,
want me on.
there's no drama. Like I absolutely love that man. He did a harder job than others. My life has been benefited greatly from everything that he did, even though he was probably just listening to what they told him, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't
And
I
he,
don't think he had an issue with you
no
in
malice.
the grand scheme of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he also kept saying on season 3, at least, he kept saying, or 4, on season 4, he kept saying, number 3 did better, or number 4 did better than 1, 2, and 3. And he was saying Tattoo Baby did better because of all the interest that was, and because she didn't actually make it to the final stage
Yeah.
than the people that we don't remember who did.
Yeah, I've heard that a bunch as well. I'm sure it's probably just
Yeah.
people telling us that to make us feel better, but because we didn't
Well,
win. But
I think him saying that also let me know that even if that is not a truth, it
yeah,
was his justification and his understanding of it. If I'm harder on anybody, they benefit.
yeah. I mean, and it also amplifies your fan base. When your fan base is like, I like Kyle, and you get kicked off, it's almost like they attach themselves to you stronger because they're
Yeah.
like, he got wronged,
It's
So
bullshit.
it's the psychological game that I learned on Ink Master. I mean, it was pretty insane, and just knowing that Andrea could understand all of that and create this thing. I mean, the moving parts on that show.
Who is the high
That's
like if Andrea was in high school, I feel like she may not be the one, but the people she hired were the people that would go out and be like, I heard so and so was saying some shit. You should probably. And they were back there when the fight finally happened. They were like cheering the loud, oh yeah, and they both sides. They were happy of it.
I mean, she's the queen bee, man. She's just sending out her soldiers and just watching them work and poking and pushing off this way. But I mean,
Well, you helped me get
I
those
would
two.
I
Get
would
Andrea,
absolutely love.
get
I would
Chris.
absolutely love. I mean, yeah, good luck. Good luck with Andrea. I'd absolutely love to like have a real conversation with Andrea and just to understand the back end dynamics of these shows because there's so much going on and so many levers that need to be pulled and so much creativity and so much psychology. I mean, it's nuts.
But you also question how much would she feel was necessary and right to reveal to you as a former
Sure.
contestant with her brand still somewhat being made. It'd
Yeah.
be
I
nice
mean, I think
at the
it's
at the
just
end
like
of all this.
all the conspiracy theories and stuff. It's like after the show's been off for 10 years, eventually some of the people will be like, yeah, it doesn't matter if we say anything now because the shit's over.
I had
So I
Turboss
suspect
on
that.
the guy who helped keep me and Chris from fighting. I had him on.
Oh yeah, how'd
So
that go?
yeah,
What do you say?
it enlightened me a lot. And I didn't get necessarily like I was really hoping it was going to be like, yeah, Kyle, they're trying to fuck you in the booty hole. And it was more like these things have this way of working. He had his own problems with it. Him and Nunez didn't. He didn't like Nunez at all to work with him as a person. So there was, oh, all right, you're still there. Yeah, that's my warning. There was a lot. It was a good episode. I wish that I could have delved into it, and I tried to go back and ask him to be on again, and it was like because I felt like there was so much. Oh no, I did have him on a second time. I ended up asking him all the same fucking questions that he had already answered. I just must not have liked his answers, I'm betting.
Right.
So there might be 2 episodes of Kyle Turboss with some real behind the scenes shit, but probably just the first one's worth listening.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows, man? Maybe we'll just be stuck in conspiracy world forever. But the fact of the matter is that was a pretty amazing experience overall that a lot of people wish they could have done, and we did it.
We did it, bro.
We
Just
did
like
it.
this one. Just like when we sell this
Yeah.
episode to Spotify for 100 million.
Yeah.
Smash that
Wow.
like button. I think I say that kind of stuff now. I don't know.
Subscribe. Subscribe.
Subscribe
Dude.
to Method Tattoo System.
Oh yeah.
Is that what it
I
is?
appreciate you, man. Yeah, Method Tattoo System. But
Appreciate you,
I mean,
brother.
whatever. RichmondTattooConvention.com, October 18th to the 20th. Come hang out, Kyle. What the fuck, man?
I'll get there. I'll get there. I promise. Love you,
All
brother.
right, man.
Have a good one.
Later. Love you too, man.
Yeah,
Um,
you're working on your oil tycoon mustache.
I don't know what I'm doing, man. I think initially it started off as me trying to fuck with my girl and my kid and just try
Uh-huh.
to look weird, and then it just kind of stuck.
How long? How long?
It's only been like 3 days. I mean, I just did it
Oh,
three
okay.
days ago. I think
Okay.
next time I'm going to shave it like this. I'm just going to cut it where it's like a mustache that goes straight across. Just
Have
all-
you seen what is it, like A Million Ways to Die in the West or something like that? The show by Seth Green or Seth MacFarlane.
Oh,
No, there's
was it
a
good?
I barely remember. I think it was probably there was a funny part though. Neil Patrick Harris Stewart. I don't know, somebody like that. Doogie
Was that
Howser.
Doogie Howser? Yeah, yeah,
Doogie Howser plays a guy who helps people choose their proper mustache. And you may want to search the Google of that because he has, there's a weight to it, as I understand. I had no idea, but you may not be the right person for certain mustache, I'm told. So maybe you need to have someone study your face, pick out
yeah.
the right, soup strainer for you. And that's what my dad called it, soup strainer.
I'm sure that you can relate, man. It's like after you got, your kids and your girl, it's like, who are you looking good for? Like, I'm, I'm just, as long as my girl and my kid are happy with me. Actually, it's probably the opposite. Like I said, I originally did this just to fuck with them. So, and then
Well,
my girl is actually like, I kind of like it. So,
yes, right on. Can't be mad about that. It does look good on you. You look like you're ready to go a couple of rounds, like you would steal second base or something. I don't.
oh, nice. Well, I've been called a cop a bunch lately, and
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
it's
wouldn't invite you. You wouldn't get invited to the stoner circle.
to your drug deals.
Yep. Yep. Or if you asked somebody, go to another strange town and ask somebody there if hey, do you know where I can find some marijuana? Even if it's legal, they'll be like,
Yeah,
not
I'll
this
put
guy.
some of those aviator glasses on and I'm set.
Yeah, you might not get pulled. Have you noticed getting pulled over less or more? You haven't probably gotten pulled over in years.
It's been a while, man. It's been a while. My girl just got pulled over like a couple months ago.
Your girl
But
did?
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she did. Just for driving crazy. But yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of drive pretty safe, I think. Like I tattooed a cop one time and the cop told me that he said typically they don't pull you over if you're unless you're going at least 10 over the limit. So I always just put it at 9. And I just drive 9 over the limit. And that's it,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. And traffic is actually kind of crazy on the highways near you.